welcome to this market dialogue. The clock just turned 1500 here Norwegian time, and we will start this meeting. My name is Martin Andreasson, and I'm Chief Communicator Officer at Norwegian Nuclear Decommissioning, and by my side I have
Ole Jakob Ottestad, and I'm the ICT Manager at NND.
And with no further ado, let's jump into some practicalities. Due to the corona situation and due to the fact that we would like as broad participation as possible, we are conducting this market dialogue on Teams. So there are no people in the room except us. To be clear about this, NND will record this market dialogue, and it will be published afterwards. And by attending this dialogue, you agree to that it's okay to publish it. And we ask you all to please mute your microphones when not speaking and add video only when speaking. Questions can be posted in the meeting chat and will be addressed at the end of this presentation. And I think I actually forgot one of the most important things, and that is to say welcome to you all. We can see that we have a list of participants, and that is a very good thing for us. So welcome everybody. And speaking of this, we would like to have a record, or we need to have a record on what people that are attending. So this is the time where we will go through the list, and when you hear your name, please unmute and state your name and what organization you represent and what title or and the title you have. And Ole Jakob will conduct this presentation and registration part.
Thank you. So I'm going to go through the participant list, and as soon as you hear your name, I'm going to read a name. I'm going to stop for you to unmute and present yourself, and then I'll read the next name so that we have do this in an orderly fashion. So on the top of the list, we have Alistair Laird. So please, Alistair, if you can give us your details.
Sure. My name's Alistair. Can you hear me okay? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yep.
Good. So my name's Alistair Laird. I'm the Managing Director of a company called Project Time and Cost International, and we do project management services in the nuclear sector, predominantly assurance and cost engineering, cost estimate reviews.
Thank you. Next on the list is Rodolfo, please. If you can just give us your name and organization, title, role. You're on mute, Rodolfo.
Sorry. Rodolfo Avila. I'm working at AFRI in Stockholm. Well, in a section which is called Safety Assessment and Safety Case and Licensing. And we work in the area of safety assessment and radioactive waste management for nuclear installation and radioactive waste management installations. And over the year, we have developed a number of tools to support safety assessment, databases to support safety assessment, which I think some of them can contribute to NND future IT systems.
Thank you. Next on the list is Bernard Bugenhagen.
Is now joining.
Good afternoon, I'm Bernard Bugenhagen. I'm from TÜV Nord, Germany. We're an international technical support organization, and nuclear, especially nuclear, is our strong suit, and we're rather interested in the events that are going on concerning decommissioning in Norway. And I'm working in the business development department, and I'm very interested in what's going on there. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list is David Garcia.
Good afternoon, this is David Garcia from Anfos 21, Spain. We are working in the nuclear business 25 years ago, more or less, and in the radioactive waste management issues. And we are very interested in knowing what you are doing in this talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list then is David Rogedes Cano, and apologies if that wasn't properly pronounced.
Never mind. This is David Rodriguez from ENSA in Spain. We are a state-owned company placed in the north of Spain, and we have developing a main role in the decommissioning area in Spain in all the dismantling since 1980s approximately. And I belong to the business development department, focused on decommissioning and dismantling.
Thank you. Next on the list is Michael Devane.
Good morning. I work for Project Time and Cost International, same as Alistair Laird, who you previously met. We do project management, construction management, nuclear D&D planning, and delivery. So nice to meet everyone. Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. We also have some NND participants there. So the next on the list will be Elena. I think I'm gonna do this for the whole meeting room where you are in. So next there is Eric M from SKB International, please.
Yes, good afternoon. Eric Moller from SKB International. We are a consultant company using the entire SKB, Swedish Nuclear Fuel Management Company's expertise. So we are listening in and looking forward to see your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the guest list is Gerst.
Hello. My name is Christian Gerst. I'm working for TÜV Rheinland in Germany, and we provide a lot of installations of software for decommissioning and track and tracing and for reporting for the regulatory body in the nuclear field. And I also had in the past connections to Norway with the Halden reactor project in some reliability assessments, and I'm interested what in Norway is going with decommissioning projects.
Thank you. Next out would be Sven Hamren.
All right. Hey, I'm Sven Hamren. I'm representing TÜV Nord Scandinavia AB from Sweden. We are an accredited inspection organization, and we are the inspection organization for IFE Halden, amongst others. Thank you.
Thank you. Next out will be Jan Ninivara.
Yeah, Jan Ninivara from Finland, and I represent Solita, Finnish IT company. We work mainly with the data business and do also security work. My personal title here is a defense and security consultant, and really interested to hear about your situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next out would be Jean-Luc Floutard.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jean-Luc Floutard. I'm part of PsycLife Digital Solutions. We are proposing a software allowing to provide simulation on decommissioning work sites. Our software allows to make optimization on the waste production, the dosimetry, the labor time, and of course, in the end, the cost of the operations. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Next out would be Jose Antonio Herrera Navarro.
Good evening. My name is Jose Antonio Herrera. I'm from Spain. I'm now currently an advisor for IDOM, Architecture and Engineering, fully involved in the commissioning of Solita nuclear power plant from the very beginning. with the transfer of ownership. And I hope this meeting will be very helpful for everyone. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you. Next out, Lara Duro.
Yes, I hope you can hear me. Yes, good afternoon. My name is Lara Duro. I'm Managing Director of Anfos 21. We are a consulting company specialist in radioactive waste management. We have a long track history of more than 25 years working for radioactive waste managers in all Europe. In fact, I can see some of our clients and collaborators here. It's very nice to see you in the screen after this lockdown or during this lockdown. So looking forward to listen to what you can tell us. And I'm looking for a very interesting meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Next out, Laurent Brochet.
Hello, good afternoon. Yes, I'm Laurent Brochet from Empresarios Agrupados, also a Spanish company. I'm business development manager for all our activities in Spain and abroad for decommissioning and waste management. Okay, we've been involved in these fields for almost 30 years, and we cover all the disciplines, in particular IT, but any kind of methods also that we have implemented of our projects, we hope could be helpful also for you. So I'm very happy and pleased to be invited to this meeting.
Thank you. Next, Maria Vega.
Hello, everybody. My name is Maria Vega. I'm coming from ENSA, Spain. So is now exiting. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So ENSA has been involved in the dismantling, mainly in the removal of the radiological equipment in all the nuclear power plants that have been dismantling in Spain. We have also some expertise in waste treatment, and we are pretty involved also in the development and supply of gas for Spain fuel. Thank you.
Thank you. Next out, Mathieu Nouet.
Yes, hello everybody. I'm Mathieu Nouet from France. I'm from Cyclive Digital Solutions, a subsidiary of EDF. I'm here with my colleague Jean-Luc Floutard. I'm pleased to be here with you for this meeting, and we are just to remember, we are developing a software, a simulation software for decommissioning project. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next out, Natasha Juncker.
Hello, Natasha Juncker, Vice President Decommissioning and Dismantling for TÜV Nord Group, like Mr. Bugenhagen. And yeah, I'm also looking forward for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next out would be Stefan Osterleher.
Good afternoon. I'm Stefan Osterlehner from TÜV Rheinland Industry Services. I'm project leader for our radioactive waste management software that is used in many countries in decommissioning and operations for more than 25 years now.
Thank you. Next out, Sverker Nilsson.
Yes, hello. I'm Sverker Nilsson from SKB on behalf of the SKB International together with Erik Muller. I'm the operation manager of the database GAD, which is dealing with low and intermediate waste, operational waste from the Swedish nuclear power sites, from Barsebäck, from Oskarshamn, from Forsmark, and from Ringhals. Yeah, I'm here to learn about your process.
Thank you. And the next out will be Thomas Pettersson.
Hello, Thomas Pettersson with Predictor. I'm VP Operations Management. We are providing enterprise industrial software. Thank you.
Thank you. Next out, Vikash Katta, please.
Yeah, this is Vikash Katta from Institute for Energy Technology in Halden.
I'm a senior scientist working with digital safety and cybersecurity. Thank you.
Thank you. And in addition to this, we have a few from internally in NND in the project. We won't be presenting them in the meeting. Is there anyone now left out and who we missed in the presentation? So please state your name and so on. And if not, we're gonna move on with Martin here.
Yes, hello, this is GNS from Germany. My name is Jörg Viermann, and I'm here with my colleague Diana Romanowski. Hello. And we're from GNS. GNS is owned by the German utilities and working as their competence center for all of their waste management. And part of that is also a lot of software that we are providing, not just to our shareholders, but to any other company, software for waste tracking and software for tracking during decommissioning and so on. So a lot of different products there.
Thank you, Jörg. Final last call.
Yes, hello, this is Jim Fornoff from Lightbridge Corp in Virginia in the United States. We do large project management for new build and decommissioning. And very much looking forward to your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that concludes this part of the meeting. Again, you are everybody very welcome. This was a big turnout. We said earlier today that we didn't have any registration, and when the questions came, how many will there be? And we said, wow, 3, 4, 5, 6 maybe. And I have a count of 30 on the screen now, so that's really good. And it also makes us really happy that we can bring people together during this lockdown and Corona time. So that's a good thing. You kind of put some pressure on us. We felt that this was an easy peasy cake, but now when everybody said that you are looking forward to this presentation, we get kind of nervous, or at least I did that. Ole Jakob is not getting nervous. We have done the first part of this meeting, the welcome and the registration. Now we are going to move into a short presentation of NND. And in this English version, we will make a little longer presentation on the Norwegian nuclear program than in the Norwegian version. We will go through the purpose of this market dialogue. We will describe the side feedback from the market, and we will describe NND as is situation, where we are at this point, because that is very important that we can manage to fit in things to our existing infrastructure. NNDs practices and needs, general guidelines and main processes will be presented. And we will also describe the process ahead, and we will get into more detail on all of these issues later. And towards the end of this program, we will also have a Q&A session. And as I said, we would like you to post the questions on the chat. So, Norwegian nuclear decommissioning. What is this for you who did not read the homework? This is quite newly started state-owned entity. We started in 2018, and we are, as the name says, working with decommissioning of the Norwegian nuclear sites. As you probably know, Norway has no power plants, so it's 2 research reactors that will be decommissioned. But I would also like to point out that NND has the responsibility to handle all the radioactive waste from when it is created to the grave, when we can safely dispose it in a safe manner for eternity. So let's talk a little bit more about NND. I will not read our main tasks. This is what we have gotten from the Commerce and Fishery Department in the government. And as I said, the two main issues is planning and making the decommissioning of the research reactors. And the other really big issue and task is to actually handle all the waste. And as you all know, those two tasks are huge. Even though the sites are quite small, there is a lot of complexity in the Norwegian heritage. So let's talk a little bit about the Norwegian program also. Maybe you know that Norway was the 6th country in the world that were able to start a nuclear reactor. This means that Norway was a really early adopter in the atomic age. And it means that we have quite exotic spent fuel, and we know that we will encounter some things that are not expected. So we do plan and we expect kind of the unexpected. In 2018, the research reactor in Halden was shut down permanently, and in the spring of 2019, the research reactor at Kjeller outside of Oslo was also closed down. So we are now in a phase, actually a transition phase from operations to decommissioning, and NND is both a planning phase for decommissioning and also a build-up phase of our organization. But to put this into perspective, we would like to say that NND does not have tasks that are easy to solve and that will go away in a short time. To make this clear, the decommissioning issue, we estimate that it will go on for 10, 15, 20 years. So if we start decommissioning in 2025, we might be done by 2040. But after that, we will have a site where we will have to store and reposit all the nuclear waste. And we also have the task to take radionuclear waste from other sectors of the Norwegian society, like healthcare or industry. So we anticipate that we will have operations for this radioactive waste management facility for 100 years. And then we will have a monitoring task for 300 years. And this is the time span that we are actually looking to have a good information system that actually can support our operations over time. On the pictures here, you can see the Halden reactor to the left, the Kjeller reactor in the middle, and to the right we have a sketch of what we call our national repository. And this is not something that we have decided on yet, but it's more a concept that we think that it's a good thing for Norway to consolidate all the radioactive waste and all the competence and all the infrastructure that we need in one place to be able to solve our tasks. Well, let's get into more of the details. What is it that Norwegian nuclear decommissioning actually is doing? At the moment, we are planning a lot of activities. We have a lot of assessment work to do, both for radioactivity, but also for all other kinds of waste, and actually in what state all the buildings are, because there is a lot of old buildings and we need to have a good overview of where we are at and what kind of operations we will have to do to be able to make sure that we have safe and secure operations also during the decommissioning phase. There's a lot of mapping and a lot of planning, as I said, and we know that to be able to carry out these tasks, we have to build new infrastructure. and this is something that we are planning right now also. When we come so far in the journey that we are ready to start decommissioning and demolition, we will do that stuff also, of course. And during the demolition, there is a lot of controlling, as you all know, and sorting and processing. And after a while, we will also dispose the radioactive waste. As of now, we have one site that is built for low and intermediate level waste, and that is in Himdalen. It's called Kildra, a combination of repository and storage for radioactive waste. I did not say this in the beginning either, and that is that IFE, Institute for Technology, that operated the research reactors, is still the license holder and the owner of the infrastructure. When NND is ready to take over the licenses, this is the plan to move the license and the ownership of the reactor and the nuclear infrastructure from IFE to NND. And when we are closing the end of the decommissioning phase, we will finalize everything and gain control that the sites that we are cleaning up is clean. And when this is done, we have a monitoring task to carry out also. And with this very short presentation of the Norwegian of the Norwegian situation and IFE and NND, I will leave the word to Ole Jacob.
Thank you, Martin. And Martin, I think you forgot to mention that on Kjeller site, we have 2 old reactors that were decommissioned during the 60s as well. So we have three old reactors on Kjeller and 1 at the site in Halden. Now, I'm going to go through the purpose why we're having this dialogue at all. I think it's probably obvious, since we're on the verge of starting to decommission something that we haven't done in Norway before. So it's the first off of this. So, but I think you need to be aware that NND, being a state agency, we are under quite strict rules on how we can operate towards a market when it comes to procurements. So this will be the first step in a procurement situation where we, in a more traditional way, this is the RFI phase of a procurement phase. So, but even within the market dialogue, as it's called when it's a state agency, we will need to firm up how we work. So it's going to be based on NND giving fair and open and equal information to all interested parties, which is this presentation is part of. And then we will be able to have one-on-one meetings with any interested parties afterwards, where you can present ideas, your suggestions on how we could go forward. And then at the end, we will use the combined information to start a more formal procurement process. And in the private sector, that would be an RFQ, maybe an RFP. Right. So, and this sort of highlights what we have on the slide here. We will share all the information from our part on an equal basis to all participants. When we get information back from you, from the dialogue or the meetings, we will obviously treat that as privileged information. But if you don't reserve yourself, we will use the generalization of that information as part of the procurement process coming later in. So if there is something that we can't use in the generalist form, please make sure that we know this when you give us information. So let's go into more of the details. So what we have on the screen just now is the proposed management system for NND, and we have the major processes that we're going to perform as an organization in the blue middle part. So that's the core of what we're going to do. And we've divided those into the decommissioning phase, the waste management processes, and facilities, operations, and maintenance. And what we would like as part of this dialogue is to get good inputs on how should we proceed when building methods and IT tools to support the methods for all the main processes that we have on this slide. I think also it's notable to say that we expect these processes to kick in and start when we have removed the spent fuel from the reactors. So our starting point is with empty reactor tanks. So we're going to do this as a traditional D&D when we have removed the fuel. So what we're looking for is a known state or an unknown state where we're going forward to the decommissioning without spent fuel. So what we are looking for back from all you participating and anyone else is good suggestions on what kind of tools and integrations should we use for those processes. We would like to have suggestions on the best way to reuse what we already have, and I'm going to present that down the road. And also, inputs on any sort of an IT architecture that could, support us for 30 plus 100 years would be of good value as well. And obviously, we want to reuse international best practices. So please provide your understanding of those practices when it comes to the methods and tools that already has been used there. Having said that, obviously we would like to reuse any best practices, but obviously as part of the international decommissioning environment, we also would like to be able to give back a bit. So if we can have suggestions on where could we increase efficiency, increase the use of digital tools and so on with a good benefit, please give us indication on that as well. Now, during all our work, obviously there are three main challenges that we're going to face and then we're going to work with. Obviously, as in all nuclear operations, safety comes first, whether that be our employees, the contractees, or the society in general. We need to make sure that we don't misstep on anything around the environment or a leakage or whatnot. Second is, as I'm sure as usual, we need to be able to follow any material that's been contaminated or not contaminated from where it is all the way down to where it ends in a final storage or repository or waste handling or where it's going to end. So we're looking for a strict logistics operations where we can mark and we can follow and we can track and we can report on any part that's been inside of one of the facilities. And we also want this for either the temporary buildings that we're going to build or for the new buildings that we're going to build, for instance, for the final new storage that we're looking to do, the third part on the slide that Martin showed you. Obviously, this being a long project, we're going to do operation and maintenance on the facility as we go along. So anything that we do, we need to have a good working between and a good integration between the decommissioning phases, the waste management phases, and operation and facilities. And ideally, we would like this to be operating on the same data set and the same entities on a data side, so that we don't have to have double registration and so on and so on. Now, we have at least two assumptions and guidelines to you guys that we're going to use. Obviously, I've touched on the first one already, international best practices. We want to reuse methods that's already been used. When you've done successful decommissioning work other places, we want to bring those methods to us together with supporting tools. And we're not looking to develop new tools in this. We might be looking to enhance on tools or enhance on the processes and so on, but primarily we would look to reuse. And also then we have a lot of data, a few tools and so on, and we need to see if we can reuse those in an efficient way. There are quite a few others of the factors that we also need to take care of. Obviously, we're part of the international standards there, so we want to be able to give back to the AIA. So when we do budgeting, for instance, so we follow all how, the structure of the work packages so that we can bring cost estimates back to the best practice and so on. So please help us do that. Reuse, we've already touched on. We're going to have a lot of external interfaces, not only our ICT interfaces, but we're going to have external interfaces to entrepreneurs. We're going to have external interfaces on contracts, on reporting to both society, governments, regulatory bodies, and so on. We need to put work into see how can we focus and make those interfaces efficient. And also, obviously, we have to cater both for the international regulations that are there, but also the national and local regulations that we have to cater for. And I'm probably stating the obvious here now, going on this slide. Nuclear facilities are not common buildings. It's a highly complex process out there. A lot of history, a lot of documented and undocumented features, things built on the 50s that we don't really know where goes and so on. And obviously, taking care of this and dismantling and these facilities is going to be complex. And please keep that in mind as well when you suggest tools and methods. Now, coming back to the main processes and to dwell a bit more about those. What we've done, we've gone through the main processes and suggested activities within the processes. We also have a level 3 under this. We are not going to present that level 3 in this meeting, but on the slide deck that we are going to distribute, the level 3 as it's going to be distributed together with the slide deck so that you have an idea on where we stand on NNDs understanding on the process flows throughout this, and also on some of the IT interfaces that we think must be there. But these are sketches at the moment. We're more than welcome to have feedback both on the process side and on the detailed side, so please. So during the commission, we're going to do the planning and preparation, probably facility for facility or maybe parts of facilities. We're going to have the normal D&D, and we're going to go into the demolition site process afterwards, where during demolition, when we start demolition, there shouldn't be any contamination left when we start demolition. Obviously, there's a lot of waste handling, both from the decommissioning process, but also there's going to be ongoing waste management, waste handling from our external customers, as Martin mentioned, that being hospitals or whatnot, whether the radioactive waste from the national users in Norway, we're going to deposit them into our process. There are some T's in this there. The T is meant to be transport. Obviously, we're going to move some of the contaminated materials around. We need to be able to know how to do that. We need to report on it. We need to control it and so on. So transportation between the parts in the process is also part of what we're looking for advice on. And lastly, but not least, the facilities operations and maintenance is going to go on in the same time. So we're going to go through this. We're already conducting other planning projects. So there is a lot of assignments going on, especially around waste management at the moment, seeing how we could facilitate a waste management process and what kind of storage capacity we need and so on. That's separate work going on and will not be touched on in this presentation further. I think it's also fair to note that in the decommissioning process, there are going to be milestones between the major level 2 steps. So especially between the planning and preparation, we need to get authorization to start the decontamination and dismantling process. So we're probably going to do this, and we don't really know, but we're probably going to do this by having step-by-step and either facilities by facilities or building by building. We don't really know, but we can't wait for the full approval for everything before we start the D&D process. So again, but there is a final report or approval before we start, and obviously our regulatory the DSA is gonna approve the final survey as well on the end before we can start the demolition. So again, help us achieve those milestones on the movement through the process. We've put down quite a few general guidelines on what we think could be a starting point for the needs list, or more not really sharp requirements, but probably going to turn into sharp requirements down the road when we go to the procurement phase. So anyway, there might be more, there might be less, but this is our current thinking. Obviously, relevant local and international standards, we've touched on that. Compliance with law standards and so on, we touched on that. Third part is we want to increase the use of building information models. Three parts to that. We want to be able to use building information models for the planning phase of the dismantling. This means that we probably need some sort of process to create those models out of the existing building and existing facilities that we have. Second use would be to help us during operational maintenance. And the third use of those BIM models are going to be for the general education of the public, so that we can use it to showcase with a lower level of details to the general public. We want to increase the level of digitalization out in the facilities. So we are looking for solutions that can help us to do for our workers or the crew workers or the entrepreneurs to use laptops, digital devices, and making sure that we can bring digital information all the way out there where the work is done, and also bring feedback from the site back into the back-end systems online and as flexible as possible. And obviously that leads to the next one. We obviously need things to be user-friendly and have a low barrier for entry. We anticipate a lot of integrations, so the solutions that we're looking for must be able to integrate into a larger landscape. Obviously, we also want to have as little replication of data as possible, so if you can have one master database that can be accessed from other solutions, that will also be preferable. We do have secret information, obviously, and anything that we set up in the process or in the IT systems would need to be able to handle that. Reporting we've been touching on, so we need to be able to generate reports rather than to type it up from other data. And also we've touched on the life cycle part of the logistics, from entering on when we build until the graveyard on the end. We need to be able to track every piece of what we have. We also touched on we want to be able to operate on the same building information structure as we have for the planning phase as well. Now, we've tried to put together a list of what kind of laws and regulations that we need to adhere to. We're not going to go through this. It's probably not exhaustive either, but just to give you a sense of where we are with regards to what needs to be read up on and to be able to use. So I'm not going to go through this in detail. We can look it through when you have a look at the presentation after the meeting. Now, this is part of where we are looking for your good advice. I already say that we would like to have as little replication of data as possible. We would like to be able to tie together in a common information model, if at all possible. This means that if you have, for instance, a pipe that we are doing measurements on, we should be able to tie that measurement to the existing pipe in the common information model so that we can follow through, and when we move it and you make a new measurement, we can also tie that new measurement to the same information so that we can have a holistic view on everything that we do. And that being work orders, historic documentation, all the plans that we make and everything. So please help us out. This does not mean that we are requiring one database, but we're looking to have interconnected data more as a model. So it's not a physical database we're looking for. We're looking for this as an idea for you to explore, where we could have more things tied together in order for us to have efficient processes, efficient reporting, and so on. So we're going to leave this as a sort of a clue into what we're looking for you. So having said that, we also mentioned that we have quite a few things. We have Institute for Energy Techniques, so IFE, which has operated the facilities for since the 60s. So obviously there's a lot of data, there is a lot of tools in use already. So some of the tools are going to be mandatory also for us going forward, and some of them are here for more information to tell you what kind of tools have been used to document and to plan and to build and so on. So we do have a management system called Simply. It's a Norwegian one. It's built on top of SharePoint. It's going to be there. That's going to be where we document all the procedures, how we do things, how and checklists and so on. That's not going to be changed. We also do have an operational maintenance and work order system called View, and again, a system delivered out of Norway. We think that we're going to reuse this. At least it has a lot of data that needs to be reused down the road. And also we have an archiving system for documentation that can't be switched off. In addition to these, we have a lot of other tools that's been in play, Facelate, AutoCAD, and so on. And we also have some homegrown tools like VRDOS, which is a simulation of those radiation for particular sites and so on, which IFE has developed themselves. We also have a lot of historic data, both in databases and on paper. We have a lot of incidents and so on. SAP is currently used as part of the existing work for incidents and so on. We're looking to phase SAP out for that use. All this adds up to that we have, we're going to be around about 200 people in the organization. In addition, there's going to be a lot of contractees in here. So we have a lot of competency in the people that we have. We're obviously looking to reuse that competency, both when it comes to the tools and the methods and so on. But we also would like you to propose efficient training for the people that we have, so that if there is going to be a transition into new processes, we will need to train those into efficient use of processes and tools as well. So think about how could we transition 200 plus people into a new environment with the new processes or build processes. That sort of concludes our needs base. So again, the process now is we presented our thoughts on where we're going to go. Nothing of what we proposed so far is sharp requirements, really. It's pointers for you to take to bring back to us suggestions on how we could do this and when it comes to the real life decommissioning. So having concluded that, let's go and see how are we going to have this process go on further. So that would be the process with the procurement and the next phase. So our timeline on moving forward from this market dialogue would be, we're on the second arrow here now on the market dialogue. We're going to probably use the next 2 quarters plus plus minus to formulate a procurement strategy, procurement requirements, and so on after we have input from you guys here. And then we hopefully we will do start public procurements in this year, early next year. And then as soon as we sort of have everything in place, we will start implementation as soon as possible, hopefully early 2021, maybe summer 2021. So that sort of gives you the broad optimistic timeline for how we're going to move forward. No, since we're in this strict procurement process, we have to ask you for written feedback, and we've limited you guys to 10 A4 pages on that written feedback, and we would need that feedback before we can have a one-on-one meeting. The one-on-one meetings will follow the same agenda for all meetings, so that we have the same agendas, equal based for everyone. Obviously, we also would like for you to use that address information that's here. Please post us at post@nnd.no with your suggestions and a requirement for a one-on-one meeting if you so desire. And any one-on-one meeting could be due, well, depending on the COVID situation at the time, and August, we will either have those meetings digitally or physically, depending on how we fare and what you would prefer to do as well. Now, as soon as we've gone through that, we will then start on the procurement process. So, to try to sum up that, please provide us with some written feedback, ask for a meeting. We've conducted meetings from the 24th of August. After all the meetings are finished, we will start writing requirements and setting up official procurement of methods and IT tools supporting those methods. Okay, that sort of concludes what I have, the needs and the process ahead. So Martin, we're probably moving on to questions.
Yes. And so far we have received, as I can see, 2 questions, where the first is if we will distribute this slide deck, and the answer to that question is yes. And the other is if there are any high-level estimates and or plans available for the decommissioning, fuel and waste management for Halden and Kjeller. And let's say yes, but it's still a high level, and there are still some concepts that has not been decided on in detail how we will go about the decommissioning work. But to state some facts and figures, we are estimating that there is, well, I can maybe get into the picture also, into the screen. We estimate that there will be 55,000 tons of radioactive waste, and most of this waste will be low level or very low level, and just a small fraction will be intermediate or high level waste. When it comes to the fuel, the situation is as we have 16.5 tons of used fuel. About 10 tons is metallic fuel, and we are now in a process where we estimate what we will or how we will go about to transform this metallic fuel to a stable form, and this is conducted in a standardized form for the Norwegian government when it comes to big investments. So this is a work that we are doing right now. But as Ole Jacob said, the fuel side is kind of it's very specialized, and it's out of the scope for this procurement process. Let's see. We have who will be the contact of the feedback for this meeting?
So we would like you to use the official post email, and we will contact you back. But probably it will be either Martin or myself doing so, or someone else in the project. But it's going to be someone from NND anyway.
Yes, but to follow the procurement regulations, it's very important that we have a structure and a standard for doing this, and that's why we ask you to take contact with NND at post@nnd.no. Stated on this slide. I think there are, at the moment, no more questions. We guess that we have said everything, so it's clear and easy to understand.
So okay, so thank you for listening. And what we're going to do now is we're going to publish the recording. We're going to publish the slides, and also in the slides, as I said, we're going to have this level of details on the processes for you to look at. So we're not going to go through those, but you're going to get those as part of the slide deck that goes out.
Let's see.
So we have a new question?
Yeah, follow on the question, please. By high-level estimates, I was thinking previous estimates done over the operation of the plant to support regulatory and trust funds contribution, let's see, needs. Maybe we don't really get that question, but as all atomic regulatory, it's mandatory that there are decommissioning plans. So IFE has decommissioning plans also that we of course work closely to follow up on, and trust funds. I mean, this is one of the things that we work quite a lot with, and to be honest, NND is a state-owned entity, so we are funded by the Norwegian government, and the simple version is that we have kind of two different funding models. One is that we get funds every year to drive the operations in NND, and then we have project funds that we can use to actually do the actual decommissioning work. And the estimates that are right now is that and there's still a lot of uncertainty, but the estimate is that the decommissioning phase of this will cost somewhere around 10 to 4 billion Norwegian krones, and that the reprocessing or oxidation of the spent fuel will cost somewhere around 3 to 4 billion Norwegian kroners, and that the repository for all the radioactive waste will be around 10 billion Norwegian kroners. That's again, this is very a lot of uncertainties in these figures, but that's kind of the figures we have right now.
So I see we get quite a few questions on the spent fuel part of it, and Peter Kaiser from NND as well. He's just published a link on the chat for the decommissioning report that's been made on a proposed method on how to handle that spent fuel. So I suggest that you go and have a look at that report, and rather, if you have further questions, feel free to post them to post@nnd.no, and we will distribute the answer to everyone that's been part of this. And
I think what Peter is published is the KVU decommissioning, and that's actually it's part of this Norwegian process of handling big investments. And the first step is to make concept evaluation, and here we have the description of that high-level decommissioning.
And also, there's a question on the timeline for the removal of the spent fuel. And whether that's going to influence the timeline on the decommissioning. Our current thinking, and in the KBU I was referring to, our current thinking is that it probably will not, but there are a few dependencies on temporary storage of the fuel within the facility, so that we can get access to the storage tanks and so on. So, but the current thinking is now we think and we hope that the spent fuel handling will not influence too much on the timeline on this.
But to be honest, the question is if there might be bottlenecks, and the answer to that question is yes, there might be bottlenecks, both when it comes to spent fuel and when it comes to our facilities to be able to store temporarily radioactive waste. This is also one of those things we are working very much with right now to be able to put in place buildings that can house the radioactive waste intermediately in awaiting of a repository. And as you all know, when we build buildings that will house nuclear or radioactive waste, the processes about this might drag out in time. So, but we are working as fast as we can with these issues also.
Yeah, and to try to answer then the question on when will the last operational reactor be defueled, we think that that process probably will start in 4 to 6 years, and maybe last as long as then. But early in that phase, we think that we're going to bring the fuel out of the reactor tanks and have temporary storage for them on the facilities, so that we can get access to the facilities. Right, so we have a question here on, are you planning to do the engineering by yourselves? Are you expecting external support for this purpose? Probably Peter Kaiser would be a better to answer this. I don't know, Peter, are you on with sound, Peter?
With sound, what do you ask?
So the question, Peter, if you can help us out with the answer on this, are you planning to do the engineering by yourselves, or are you expecting external support for this purpose?
Yeah, we definitely need external support. And of course, eventually we will develop our own, let's say, engineering authority and competence. Yes.
Thank you. There's also a question here on, hasn't been decided which legal contract model or structure will be used to manage the decommissioning within a reasonable budget and to properly incentivize all the parties to collaborate and work together to achieve common NND goals. We haven't decided on any of this as of yet, but we're obviously looking on to have good input on this. Again, this might be sort of in the gray zone on what we're looking for during this procurement phase, but I think the answer is we would obviously be looking to incentivize and having good help in any of the processes.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things that we really would like to have some input on. If you have good experiences where we can get inspiration and find the best model in this case, that's something that we would be very interested in. So I mean, it's much more than only technical issues and which kind of different IT systems that we are looking for. So input on this side would also be very appreciated.
Thank you.
Have we got any of the reports in English? Not the KVUs. I guess Google Translate would.
Okay, so it looks like we are trickling out of questions. If you have any further questions, please post them now, or otherwise we're gonna try to wind down the conference.
I think we can wait a little bit more if there are any more questions. I think there were a lot of good questions, but also take into consideration this is a very, very early step in our procurement process. So it's kind of, we went about this to be able to have as open and as possible. So it's actually the meaning of this meeting is not to have answers to all the questions, but be able to present kind of the broad view and then get inspiration and input from the market, because we know that we will need a lot of support from the market. We will not be able to do this by ourselves, and we know that we will need to have good cooperations with a lot of different deliveries. So it's really important to have input on how to do this in the best manner.
Okay, so we have a new question. How many people in NND now? And plus add context to 200 people. This is the number working at the sites currently. So yes, that's roughly it. So we're around about 200 people combined with the IFE stuff that we have and NND stuff that we have.
Yes, but the staff at NND today is 20 persons. So it's a lean and mean organization.
Then just to elaborate on that, the idea is then for the current IFE nuclear facilities personnel to be transferred to NND down the road. So as soon as the license is ready to be transferred to NND, the license will be transferred with the people that's operating the facilities today. So yes, we're building a new organization around decommissioning, but we're gonna use a lot of the competency, all of the competency that's already built in the IFE operation.
And that's also one of the important things for us is to actually take care of the competence that has been built up in the IFE structure, because we think it's important. And we also see that we have a need to be able to operate, even though the reactors are shut down, we need to operate all the security systems in many years. So we need that competence for a long time. Well, I think maybe now we are running out of questions, and ours is not getting very late in Norway, but we have been on this for quite a while, and maybe it's time to actually say thank you to all the participants, and we are looking forward very much to hearing from you, and we think this process will be very interesting, and have a nice day. And in Sweden, it's midsummer tomorrow. So for our Swedish participants, have a safe midsummer. And for everybody else, have a nice summer. And let's hear from you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your time and your participation. It's much appreciated, and we look forward to hearing from you as the process is lined up on the screen now. So thank you again. And
take care
today.
Yeah.
Take care. Yeah.